Okay, let's finish up this section here looking at another type of interaction, and that is a potentially positive relationship between predators. And this is an example of what we refer to as facilitation. This is basically where the presence of one predator actually improves the likelihood that the other predator can actually do its job. And let me give you this classic example here of lady beetles and ground predators, these crabids here. Now, lady beetles, as you've heard already in this course, are voracious predators of aphids, these soft-bodied organisms that feed on the sap of plants. This is a study done by John Losey, and basically what he found was that if you look at the amount of aphids that are eaten just by when in a situation where there's only lady beetles around, when there's no ground beetles around, you obviously tend to get more aphids eaten when this is the case. There's an increase in the presence of predators, of the ground predators, however, just by themselves, you actually see that there's actually very little predation of the aphids by the ground predators. Well, that makes sense. The aphids are up on the canopy, on the leaves, and the ground predators are minding their own business, kind of foraging around on the ground, and they very rarely climb up on the plants. You would expect that then when you have the ground beetles here and the lady beetles together, you might expect that the ground beetles, that the combination treatment would give you about the same as just having the aphid treatment here, because the ground beetles are foraging on the ground. On the other hand, what you see is this big increase in the aphid consumption rate when both are there. So why is that? Well, what ends up happening actually is that in the presence of lady beetles, aphids have an alarm response and they tend to drop off the plants. When they drop off the plants to the ground, they actually get eaten by the carabids that are actually on the ground. So here's a functional response again, prey densities versus consumption of the prey in the presence only of the lady beetle. It's this one here. These are the 7-spotted lady beetles here. In the presence just of the ground beetles, you actually do get a little bit of predation, especially at these higher densities. Sometimes the aphids just fall off on their own. This is what you would expect if the effect was just additive, where you had a little bit of predation by the ground beetles, a lot of predation by the lady beetles, and the sum of those two should be right here. But what in fact you find is that the combination of those two is greater than you would have expected otherwise. This is a theoretically observed, or this is kind of the theoretically expected value, and this is what you actually find. So this is an example of facilitation by these two predators.